without further ado, we start this afternoon again with Fu-lan, that most of you already know. And welcome, Fu-lan.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Fu-lan. I teach Mandarin. So I think most of you, well, not most, okay, many of you might know already. Okay, so today I'm here to share my struggle in learning language and how do they influence on my teaching and also learning in general. Okay, so I have studied 3 languages. So first is English. I started when at the age of 13 in junior high school. So traditional school, traditional classes, just vocabulary and grammar, exam oriented. So I barely spoke English before I was 18. So this is a very common situation from traditional education system. And the second is Polish, so skip to something pretty high. Because I used to work in Poland university. I did have some classes in the universities, but most of the time I could say I learned most of the language by myself because I was living there. And also because I was living there, so my listening is relatively better compared to other languages when I was learning. But I have to admit, most of the time, I only understand the gist, but the individual words stay blurry. So I always feel like I'm like living in the fog. Okay, and this is something that stopped me from improving because they cannot really settle down in my brain. So I have a problem with speaking, even when I say something correctly, but I don't know I was correct. Okay, you might share the same feeling if you live in Taiwan and didn't do like active learning. And the third is Spanish. So everyone says Spanish pronunciation is rather easy, but my phone doesn't agree. So it's very, now it's okay. But when I talked to my phone, it always thought I was speaking Polish, which I found humiliating, being judged by a phone. And I couldn't ask it why. Yeah, but luckily I got some feedbacks from a very picky friend. So later on I know like what direction I can move on. Okay, and so here, from my struggles, I came up with these 4 ideas, which I call it echo here. So the first is E, the fundamental one is about your ear. If you don't hear it, you probably cannot say it. So if we want to say something in a new language, we need to make sure we hear it first. Okay, I want to give you an example of me learning how to roll the R, which is very hard for Chinese speakers. So I just learned it like 4 months ago. So very fresh experience. finally. But I have to admit, I cannot put it in words. Like in the middle, in the beginning I was okay. Yeah, so I think there's a lot of steps you can actually cut into small pieces to acquire it. Okay, anyway, so just like many people, you will look up how do you roll the R and find videos on YouTube, and everyone says like, oh, this is the best one I've ever watched. I learned it after watching it. This miracle never occurred to me. So then once I talk about it with a student, she's a speech therapist, so she's professional. Yeah, she was trying to teach me, and while she was demonstrating, but she was demonstrating something more like without the sound, so only and sorry, only this, so without like speaking anything. And she said it's better to start with this because your throat is more like a relaxed. Anyways, while she was doing this, and I realized this sound is very foreign to me. I don't know this sound at all. And then I started to search for videos and make clips by myself to pick up these sounds. So without the voice first and with voice next. And then I just listen to them, just listen for many times until I feel like mimicking. And then just like a child. So I started mimicking. And day by day, I just improve a little bit, and one day I own it. Then so, yeah, thank you. Okay, and what I want to say here is, in Polish, we also have the R, but you don't need to say it so clearly. So I just fake it, and nobody noticed that. But I was very surprised that after so many years, I didn't realize that actually I didn't know the sound at all. And if I didn't try to listen to it carefully enough, and maybe I was still stuck here, still won't be able to pronounce it. Okay, whereas when learners are learning tones, I think it might be similar. So how do we learn tones? Usually you learn the ma, right? So, and then you just dive into words and sentences. So we expect you know how to pronounce each of them, so you will be able to speak the words properly. But it's very common, people can pronounce the four tones perfectly. When it comes to words, like they just slipped. And also like the sentences, and you will have like a wrong accent, something like this. So what I believe is that maybe we didn't spend enough time listening to words and sentences, because tones are not absolute. They do interact with the tones before or after it. They do interact with intonation. Okay, one example is when I was trying to acquire the intonation, the flow in Polish. Of course, I can also get it from like people's speech, but then I also feel like there's something missing. So I listened to the recording from textbook very carefully, and because I'm a Mandarin speaker, so I mark tones. Yeah, I don't know if like other Mandarin speakers do this. I also use 注音 when I was learning English. Yeah, so yeah, before I learned the 音标. And then, so some native speakers, like for example, my supervisor at that time, he thinks it doesn't make much sense because everybody has different intonations. But I have zero. I cannot improv if I don't have a base. Yeah, so that's why I think we should really listen to things more carefully. Like one side is like naturally you immerse, but the other thing I think we really spend too little time listening, because we need to give our brain some quality time, and it will learn it by itself. Okay, and then we will repeat until it's stable. So the second is C, communication. This is the purpose most of us learn a language for. So we do want to go to language exchange to meet people, and we think we should because we need to practice the language. But once we were there, we freeze up and like we don't know what to say. So what do? So prepare something that you can say. And what do we prepare? Does anyone has the experience that you go to the meetup and you feel you're repeating the same boring conversation? Anyone? Yeah, I know. Why am I here? So this is exactly you can prepare. You know what will happen. It happens so many times. So then we can prepare like a boring self-introductions, but you can also prepare some like interesting story if you want to share it with people. Okay, and the second thing is say it. Everybody know we need to speak up, but we just don't dare. Okay, so the mindset I created in Poland was, okay, so I would say, so because Polish is pretty difficult, you just need to change everything. And basically your destiny to make mistakes as soon as you open your mouth. So which is very frustrating. I'm a teacher, I don't want to make mistakes as well. So then I came up with the idea that, okay, I'm a foreigner. I made so much effort learning this language. All Poles know it's hard. So if I made so much effort, and they are native speakers, they know the language so well, it's their responsibility to understand me, not mine. So yeah, it's not my fault. If I don't say if I don't think clearly enough, they can ask, right? If we talk to another native speaker, we will clarify. So they should do that as well for me. So it's not all on me, but if I don't speak up, it's on me, because who can guess what I'm saying? Okay, so this is the mindset I get, and I just accept the fact that yes, I will make a lot of mistakes. Yeah, and then it's okay. And the next thing, okay, no matter what, as long as we're still learning, we're not happy with the conversation we just had with other people, for sure, you drop some word, you know you made a mistake in grammar or in the pronunciation, and you regret it a lot. Then this is the point that you know what to refine. And as for refining, it comes to the next hard points. So we only want to do, I think we should do only target fixing. So some students, they really want to be perfect in tones. So they'll say, please correct me, like every time I said it wrong. But to be honest, if you're not that good and I need to correct you every time, it's very frustrating. And for sure, it will kill your motivation, unless you're like, so determined. So I think in the beginning level, make sure you don't confuse people, at least. So if it's something like 水饺 and 睡觉, that's classic. Okay, so yeah, maybe that's kind of important. Okay, and the next one is grammar, for example, in Polish, if you use the cases wrong, it could be really different. And or you, like the verb, people cannot really tell who you are talking about when you drop the subject and you didn't conjugate it properly. Okay, so you need to pay attention to these things that has crucial influence on it. If not, just let it go. I'm not saying that so we won't be perfect eventually. I mean, you can wait for later when you have the spare energy to pay attention to them, but not everything at once. The other thing about the other side of hard points is learn from others. So one thing I learned from my student, like I learned English from my students' mistake. Sounds like a vampire. So, okay, so my students sometimes they say, 你提醒我, for example, 你提醒我去台湾的时候, I was like, but I didn't 提醒 you anything. So it turns out to be like you reminded me, what you said reminded me my experience in Taiwan, something like this, but you wouldn't say 你提醒我. And I was very confused, but it happened like to different people. So I realized, you can use remind this way. And before that, I used to say, oh, this makes me think of this. This makes me think of something, which is also like a functional in English. So how do we say it in Chinese? 这让我想到. That's why I said this makes me think of something. Okay, so when you're doing the language exchanging, you're not just out of goodwill helping each other. You also learn at the same time when that person is practicing. That is a very good reflection. Because if they can make mistakes, that means that's exactly what they say in their mother tongue. The next one is online. So I think it's particularly important when you want to move to a higher level. So most of us, if you open the textbook, most of us will focus on the vocabulary, the grammatical exercise. And there's another part in the textbook. Usually, I think, like the text. But many people just think, oh, the text is the natural outcome of the vocabulary and grammar, but the text is the closest to our natural speech. So it actually is like a blueprint, how we should organize our language. We learn the vocabulary, the grammar, but how we put them in use. And when your level is getting higher and higher, if you lack of this, you will feel like everything is like, what you said is like everywhere, it's not that organized. Okay, so I think observation is very important. Watch how native speakers structure their sentences. It could be textbook. People find textbook boring, but actually I think structure-wise it's not that bad. Okay, and articles, videos, whatever. And when we are beginner, maybe that's too much for us, but we can also observe ourselves. What do you use very often in your own language? Then you might need it when you speak another language. So for example, I think one thing very important for me is, for example, I realized something. So I need to learn how to say it in Polish, like zorientowałem się, or like maybe gwenda, something like this. Okay, you might think this sounds like word level, but actually not. If you think it, okay, I want something I can use in this function, so I know it's 我发现 in Chinese. But if you look the word up, like realize, you will find 意识到. But is 意识到 correct? It's basically correct. But native speakers don't say that. 意识到 is like you have some enlightenment in your life. You realize that. So it's like too much when you chat with your friend. So it's only 发现, but 发现 is usually translated as discover. Yeah, so you wouldn't find it if you look at only at word level. You need to think, okay, in this situation, I want to say something, I want to express this idea, then what do I use? So like a connector, common use expressions, things like this. Okay. And the next, so for me, teaching is an echo. So it's like a constant resonance between myself, like a native speakers of other languages, and my students. So I hope this presentation will help us to find our authentic voice in a new language. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Fu-lan. And to connect, Fu-lan, maybe you can also send your QR code in the group chat. Oh, next page. Okay, yeah. So here, perfect. So please scan these pages.